Hi, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums, and welcome to my channel. This video is it's not a tutorial, it's just how I decorated this mini album. There is also a walkthrough of the mini album, and there is also a tutorial on how I made it. This is just purely me decorating the mini album and telling you some of my process. So if you'd like, if you haven't seen it, check the description box and you can go back and watch the walkthrough and then the tutorial. But we're going to start first with me telling you how I ink it, and then we're going to get into the decorating. So thanks so much, and here we go. Alright, so before we get started, I want to show you what I used to ink around the edges. And you don't have to, but I just wanted to have some delineation between the decorative paper and the white of the album. So first I tried this Distress Weatherwood, and it's a good idea to go ahead and use some scraps and just experiment. And that one actually came out okay. If you were using the boy paper, I think that would be fabulous because it's a little vintage, but it wasn't the look that I was going for, so I decided against that. I tried Vintage Photo, but that is much too dark, so that wasn't going to work. The Antique Linen, so I did that on this side, and that one came out okay. You know, it's very opaque, but it doesn't feather as much as I wanted it to, so I decided that wasn't what I was going to do. And I liked the Distress ink, but it was very, very light and faded, so I actually had some Distress ink re-inker, and I put that on a makeup sponge, and that worked real well. It gave me the feathered look, and if I wanted, there's some pages you'll see there's more of a harder line, but you tend to go through a lot, so I don't know if you want to do that. But so you see how, but then you also can do more of a faded look, and I like that. It's got some of the yellow in, which there's a lot of yellow with the stars, so that was more what I was looking for. I think this green one was Distress Stain Tea Dye, and that's way too green. I mean, it worked, but I didn't want green to be the major color. So I ended up using the Antique Linen re-inker, and that just gave me the look I was going for. So you can do what you want, but I just wanted to let you know what I used. Alright, and let's get on with decorating the album. Alright, so I'm going to start decorating, but I'll tell you a couple of things first. I did cut papers for the cover. I'm going to do that at the end, but make sure you reserve papers for the cover. I've cut everything, I've inked everything, and I'm just going to go through my process. There are going to be times that I'm going to do a voiceover, going to be times I'll have music, but if there's something I feel like I need to explain to you, then it's just going to be live. So I'm going to start with the waterfall in the front, and I'll just tell you the way that I put paper in a waterfall is I start towards the back and then go towards the front, because that way you can make sure that all of the paper stays even. So even if the waterfalls are a little wonky, if your decorator paper is even, then it all looks consistent. So I start from the one in the bottom and go all the way to the top. So I'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so I'm going to do a voiceover for the rest of decorating this mini album. And obviously here I am finishing putting on the 3x4 pieces to cover the waterfall. I just try to make sure that there's some variation in the patterns. You know, I don't want two together that are exactly the same. If I have 10 the same. I put 10 on the top and 10 on the bottom, but again, I was just using scraps. So I'm just trying to put it in here and make sure it's all lined up properly. I love waterfalls because you get a lot of bang for the buck. You can put a lot of photographs in a small space, and generally it doesn't take up that much room. Sometimes if you cover it with cardstock or with your designer paper, then it does get a little bulky. So that's why on this one I'm just covering one side of it and leaving the other side blank. Other times you might see that I will put just a half-inch strip along the outside so it looks like I haven't ignored the waterfall, yet I'm not bulking up the page. It just depends on how much room I have in the mini album. So we've got the top done, and we'll go ahead and do the bottom. Another thing about this paper collection is that everything really goes very well. Even though I'm using scraps and taking some pieces from one page and putting it right next to the other, it still goes together nicely. I'm generally using not the A side of the paper, but the B side of the paper. Now that one looks like it's the A side because it's a little darker, but the muted tones on the back of the paper would work well for this, just because you can put them all next to each other. I think the thing that took the longest time was just inking around the edges. Later on, and I didn't do it on camera, but in the final walkthrough you might see, I did take a small strip of paper, and it probably was about 3/8 of an inch wide and 4 1/8 inch tall, and just put on that blank part on the tab on each of the waterfall. So just to make it look a little more finished. Don't you love those balloons? The balloons with the stars are really fabulous. And I love the rose on the opposite page on the right hand side. The roses are so soft and delicate. I really like how they go with all of the paper. Now see, this one is a darker rose because that was the A side. So now I'm also covering that little flap with the waterfall. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Making sure that the magnet still works without a problem. Alright, and I'm trying to decide here if I'm going to put the rose on the top or the bottom, and I decide to put them on some cut-aparts on the bottom. It's a good weight cardstock or decorator paper, so I didn't back the cut-aparts with any cardstock. You could though, you absolutely could. But I just put this hydrangea there, and then I find a rose later on and I put. So now these are the pieces that I have to go on these flaps and the page. I have two of the same, those two ones with the lamb. And I know which one I want on the front, so I'm just trying to figure out where they're all going to go. Oh, so okay, so the lamb's going to go on the back of that one page. And I know that needs to go there for sure because it was cut a little bit smaller. I'm taking a dry baby wipe to wipe the glue away. So I loved the birthday. Again, I probably mentioned this before, but I thought this would be fabulous if you had pictures of a baby's day of birth. They would go nice here. And that's why I had the extra flaps on here, thinking that you do get a lot of pictures when the baby's in the hospital. And when family comes, everybody comes to see the baby, at least when you were allowed to go to the hospital. So now I have 2 pages left, and I'm just trying to figure out which one's going to go where, because they're both the same size. One's on the front, one's on the back. So there's the roses opposite the lamb. And I have that small piece, and I don't remember why I have that small piece. Because it doesn't, does it fit on there? No, see, I have this other one. Oh, that goes in that page. I know for sure that goes in there, so I'm going to glue it down before I change my mind. And we're going to put this on the pocket. This is the kind of paper where the pictures are definitely going to be the star of the show. The paper is adorable, but it's not so busy that you wouldn't pay attention to the papers. I'm cutting a piece probably to fit on the inside. There we go. Get my shadow out of the way. Yeah, still not sure which is going to be which. You know, sometimes you just, when you're putting together the album, you just zip, zip, zip and go, and then all of a sudden you get to a page and I just stare at it, just trying to figure out, well, if I do this and put this pattern next to this pattern, what will I have later on? I really think it through when I'm doing a mini album. Like, I want the front page, I want the cover to be an indicator of everything on the inside. So if I can put more than one of the pattern paper on the cover, I'll do that. And then from there, I want the inside to be sort of a wow, this is going to be great. And then as we go, I sort of feel like it needs to build up to a crescendo. And then when you get to the second to the last page, I want it to be fabulous. So you'll see I tend to do sort of, you work up, you build up till you get to about the second to the last page, and that's where I have a lot more flaps and folds. And then the last page is sort of a quiet down and pull everything together, and then the back cover is usually flapped with a pocket, and that is where you put everything together that didn't have a spot to go anywhere else. So if you look at any of my other mini albums, you'll see what I mean. It sort of is a build-up. I call it like fireworks. I want to bang at the end. All right, so I figured out what goes where. And I love this this A side of the paper. It's got stripes, but they're muted tones. It's got that beautiful green and all those water spots on the bottom. It's sort of a purplish tone. So I cut this out of the paper. That fit perfectly. You couldn't put the little pockets on the left-hand side. You can't put that down until you've gotten the decorative paper on. I'm having problems getting in this one pocket. So I think I'll grab a ruler. Oh, what am I doing with the tape? Oh, I'll tell you what I'm doing with the tape. My hands have gotten sticky with glue. So once it's dried, I take a piece of packing tape and just get all of the glue off. Number one, I'm recording, so I don't want to stop the recording. Number two, I usually don't want to get up when I'm on a roll, so I just use the old sticky tape trick. So here I'm taking a circle punch and just putting a little tab on here. And making sure I'm inking around that. And I'm adding glue. I think it's off camera, but I'm putting glue on there. Pretty sure that's what I'm doing. Maybe I'm inking around the entire edges. So it looks like it's a little too big, so I need to take it down and trim it a little bit. Now I have to ink around that edge. And there we go with that. Putting glue on there. And I don't want it centered. It's more to the right hand side of the page because I want to make sure that if I have a tab on the little tag that's going to be in the pocket. It's not going to stick out too much. And then this one goes in the other direction. And that'll go on the top. And then that one I center pretty much to the page. Use the baby wipe to make sure all the glue is off. And while I'm at it, I figure I might as well work on the tag that's going to go inside the page. So I have a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to cut the tab out. So I use my tab punch board. I've got some tape on there. On the tape there's lines, so I know how far the tab will, how far to go with the tab. But it's not a perfect science, because you'll see. So that looks okay. So there's the paper. I need to trim it down just a little bit. That lined paper is perfect if you're going to do journaling. You can sort of stay within the lines. Alright, so that's good. I've got that and have that cut down. Now I have a scrap piece left over that I need to make for the tab. And I have this We Are Memory Keepers tab punch. So I punch it and then I realize, oh, I have to do the inking. But I'm going to take a look at the tab and realize that the tab is the same size as the tab on the paper. It should have been a little bit smaller. So I go to put it on, I'm like, uh-oh, darn it. So I take it and I just try to put it back in that tab punch. You ever try to do that? It's not as easy as it looks. Cut a sliver off, and good, done. And I'll go ahead and glue this on. And I like it. So that'll go inside the little tabby thing. Am I going to work on the one on top? I should. Yep. Cutting the paper. I'm sorry I'm out of the frame, but I'm trimming the paper down, doing the tabby thing again. Hopefully I'll remember and make it a little bit wider so that tab punch will work. Oh, see what I did? I tried to make it a little smaller, and then I see it's wonky. It's way far to one side, and I'm just not that nuts about it. I look at it and think, oh, well, it'll work. And then I decide against it. So I'm going to do it again. Trim the little piece off of there. And do the same thing. See what side I'm going to use of this paper. And those are just scraps. Scraps are great for things like tabs or tags or anything else. Inking around the edges. And one more time, but this time I'll be smart about it. Because I know I need to make it smaller. Will it go in this way? If it doesn't go in this way, maybe, how about if I go that way? There you go, Deb. So I cut it out, and then I go to put it on, and perfect. So I ink around it, put that on, put that one on, and voila. 2 tags ready to go. Okay, now we can move on. Let's see what else I have to do. Alright, these are ready. I mean, on this page, all I'm going to do is put the paper on. And I've already got cut aparts and I'm just going to attach them to the side. So whatever pictures you put on will slip underneath the, not cut aparts, what I fussy cut. So I've got the moon up on one side and I've got the fox with the star on the other. I'm just going to put glue on one side and put him down, and then the moon just glue on the top corner and put that down. And that's all I'm going to do with that page. I'm checking just to make sure that that works, and it works perfectly. So let's go on to the next page. So this one has the roses with the geometric shapes. And I thought that was a nice touch to the paper. It just added something a little different to it. And I did manage to cut this rabbit with the moon balloon. Moon balloon. So I'm going to put that on. I did not put, did I put a magnet? We'll see when we open it up. I put it on. Is there a magnet? There is a magnet. So I did put a magnet down there. I wasn't sure if I did. That's such pretty paper, but you know, you're going to cover that up with a photo, hopefully. So I love the stars up there. I love the stars on it. I mean, they're watercolory, pretty stars. So there's that page. This balloon layout I love. Easy schmeezy. This one side just goes on easily. Now this one has to slip under the waterfall, not waterfall, under the belly band. And I put glue on one side and move it through. And that'll go down, and then I just lift up the other side. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. Once you've gotten the outside of this done, it's not going to go anywhere. And then I have the little piece to go in the center. I have that little lamb in the center with the balloon. All right, that's done. Here is, all right, so here's the sort of a double flap. It opens to the side and opens up. So I found two matching rose pieces, or I thought I did. I don't remember where I put the other one. I have to go through and see where it is. Where the heck did it go? Well, in the meantime, I can glue these down. This is where I could have put a magnet on the flaps. And when I did the other book, the Woodland Friends book, I did put magnets, but I realized you probably don't need them just because of the nature of the flaps. They're both on the outside, and it just will fold towards the middle. So you really absolutely don't need magnets. And I try not to use too many magnets. You know, I mean, honestly, they do get a little costly if you're making one mini album for a wedding, or you know, just one a year. Okay, no big deal. But all right, is that what's supposed to be there? Now I figured it out. There we go. And I was like, does this writing go on the top or the bottom? So anyhow, I try to use things besides magnets. And they're not easy to find. Luckily, Country Craft Creations always has them in stock. So probably every other order, which is every other month, I'll buy some. But then besides magnets, you can use different things like the library style closure, or the seam binding closure, or a swing tab closure. So again, this page is going to be fairly simple. I've tried to put this on. I realize this page needs to be cut down a little as well. I hope you're able to see the papers that I've used if you're trying to copy this book exactly the same. good thing about the papers is it really is interchangeable. I have a big thing about whether or not they should be both on the bottom of the opposite pages or one on the top and one on the bottom. And see, I'm just putting glue on the side, and yeah, just so you still can get a picture on the side. All right, here's the rose page, and it's the last page as well. I mean, there's still more to go, but after I start putting it on, I realize I want the roses to the outside of the page, just so it balances out with the roses on the flap of the inside back cover. My guess is right here. No, I thought I was cutting circles for the library style closure. Oh, maybe I did, or I already cut them. So this is where one will go. Here's where the other one, they have to, be even up and down. Then I take the hole punch and put it in. So I put on the circles with a brad before I put it on the page. I don't go through the cardstock. I'm adding some glue here, and then I take a piece of cellophane tape and put it on there. I mean, it just to help keep it. All right, this one I already tied the string to the brad underneath the circles, and then I put that on, and again with a piece of tape, glue the heck out of it, and put that on. There's a little piece of the string sticking out, so I'm just going to trim that off. And I'm tying the other end of the string just so it has a more finished look. Sometimes you can add a charm or something small, some kind of dangle. So now I'm putting the paper in for the back cover inside the pocket, and this is for the top of the flap. I've already grabbed my corner rounder and rounded the corners of that, and there we go. So that page looks nice when it's all done. And let's go ahead and tie this up. I call it the library style closure. It's 2 layers of the cardstock and 1 layer of the designer paper, and I inked around the edges. I think I used pieces of designer paper that didn't have that much on it. Now I'm just going through, oh, I have this other rose. There we go. I had an extra rose from this page. Trying to figure out where that's going to go. I like it on the top. There were some others, the first page has it on the bottom. Alright, so we've got that, good. Put a nice card or picture under there, and then let's adhere this rose underneath that hydrangea, so the hydrangea pops a little more. Do I want this other one? I have another small rose cut out. And no. I decide against it. Alright, one more look through the book, see if I missed anything. Looking for any big pages. Oh, besides the front and back cover. Oh, let's do the front cover. That'll be fun. So I have the fox with the balloon. Now see the balloon, how it sort of got rounded edges? I wish I had paid more attention to that. You'll see why. All right, I'm putting on the piece to cover the spine. Nothing fancy, just the gray stripes with the balloons, with the stars. And I have a piece of this, I think it's marigold paper. It's got a little sheen to it, and I just trimmed it, or trimmed the page on top of it, so it's a very small border. I don't want a lot of the yellow showing. I realize I have to trim a little bit more though. Oh, here, I'm sorry, I'm not trimming it.
I'm just cutting out a big square, a big rectangle, leaving about 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. So I save on paper because this is such pretty paper, and I figure I could probably use it. My feeling is I think I could use it as a photo mat. Do I use it as a photo mat? No, I forget. So I'm just putting glue on the outside so it sits right on that little yellow frame I made. And then I'm going to turn it upside down. Oh, I don't turn it upside down yet. But I will. And put glue on it. See, it's just a frame. But I cover the back with glue. I don't want the cover to have any air bubbles, so I'm real careful about covering that. Taking that baby wipe and making sure no glue seeps out. Alright, am I going to work on the star now? Yes, I am. So that is a dimensional outline of a star. I'm peeling off the inside. And I'm going to put that right on top of the star. I could have taken some dimensional thin double-sided tape or foam or something and done the outline of the rounded star, and I might have been happier with that. I mean, not that this is bad. It's just it's a star with sharp angles, and the other stars are not. So this is a powder tool to help take some static out, because I was going to put glitter, but then I have these white little gems, and there's some yellow ones. If you put some white with the yellow, they're not white as much as they're clear, but it tones down the yellow, which goes real nicely with everything else. So there was adhesive on the top, so I peel that off, and you can't see it, but in my hand is an acetate star. Every once in a while the light catches it. So I put that on, and then I had cut out a star out of some of the paper, and I don't like it. I put it on and I just don't think it doesn't give me the oomph. And since we've got the yellow around the outside, I figure, well, I can add some more yellow. So I'm taking my die cut machine, taking my star die, and cutting another star out. I just put the plate back in because that's how I store it. So here's the star. I probably should have inked it. I would have felt better about it. But again, I wanted it to mimic the outside, the outline, the mat on the page. So I didn't want to do anything different on that than I did to the mat. So there we go. I mean, it looks nice. I'm okay with it. I feel like the front cover needs a little bit more. So as I said, I feel like the front cover needed a little bit more. So out of another scrap, I took one of the fox heads and fussy cut it and popped it up on some dimensional adhesive. And I did that, sorry, the tractor came back. I did that the same thing with the stars, a couple of the stars. I cut some of the stars and I glittered them. Just some glitter that was in my stash. Somebody said they look like sugar cookies. I mean, I could see that. Couldn't you? Let's try to get a close-up. So yeah, some of them are popped up. Now you can see the fox head, and there's the detail of the star. So I did that. I was telling you that I did add some paper to the inside of the waterfall that you already saw. Something I didn't tell you, but so these pages are pocket pages. You could put more hidden pockets, more photo mats,
inside the pages. I didn't do it with this book. Did I add anything else? Nope, there's the back, there's the spine, there's the front, and there we go. So that is how I decorated the Baby Dreams Girl mini album. The first tutorial is also available. It'll be linked in the description box. I hope you enjoyed this. If you were going to decorate with me, just go ahead and pause it or fast forward. I just wanted to do an overview of how I decorate mini albums. So again, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like for me and have a fabulous day.